At 76, the tragedy of André Rieu is beyond heartbreaking. Health updates. For more than half a century, André Rieu has stood before the world with a violin in his hands and a smile that seemed impossible to break. To millions of fans, he was not just a musician. He was a symbol of joy, elegance, romance, and old-world beauty in a modern world that often feels too cold, too loud, and too fast. But now, at 76, people are watching André Rieu with different eyes. They still see the glittering stages. They still hear the sweeping waltzes. They still watch the grand entrances, the candlelit atmosphere, the orchestra dressed like a dream from another century. But behind the applause, behind the laughter, behind the golden lights, there's a quieter question many fans are afraid to ask. How much longer can one man keep carrying this much magic? The heartbreaking truth is not that André Rieu has vanished. He is not. His official tour schedule still lists concerts for 2026, including his famous Maastricht performances and dates across Europe. The tragedy is much more human than that. It is the story of an artist who has given his entire life to making others happy, now reaching an age where even passion must answer to the body. André's story began with a small violin and a huge dream. On his official biography, he recalls being only 5 years old when his mother gave him a violin. From that moment, he wanted to go on stage and make people around the world happy through music. Years later, his breakthrough came in 1994 with Shostakovich's Second Waltz after years of study, sacrifice, and work. That dream became bigger than anyone could have imagined. It became the Johann Strauss Orchestra. It became sold-out arenas. It became romantic summer nights in Maastricht. It became DVDs, television specials, world tours, and audiences who traveled across countries just to hear one man lift his violin and turn a concert hall into a ballroom. But dreams this large do not come without pain. The Johann Strauss Orchestra was founded in 1987, and after 6 months of rehearsals, gave its first concert on January 1st, 1988. It began with only 12 members, but grew into a 70-piece orchestra. That kind of success sounds beautiful from the outside. But behind it are years of pressure, planning, travel, rehearsals, responsibility, and exhaustion. Fancy the fairy tale. André lives the burden behind it. He is not only the man who plays the violin. He is the man at the center of a huge musical world. Every concert depends on him. Every ticket, every musician, every crew member, every city, every promise to the audience, all of it circles back to André Rieu. And when someone carries that for decades, the body eventually begins to whisper. Then sometimes it stops whispering and finally says no. In 2024, fans were shaken when André had to cancel 4 concerts in Mexico City after suffering an acute flu with fever. Reports describe the difficult conditions around that tour: travel, jet lag, altitude, and the physical toll of performing at more than 2,000 meters above sea level. André himself reportedly acknowledged that he needed to keep listening to his body because he wanted to continue doing this for a long time. For fans, that moment was painful. Not because flu is rare, not because an artist canceling concerts means the end, but because André Rieu had always seemed unstoppable. He was the man who could turn sadness into song, silence into celebration, and strangers into one united audience. Seeing him forced to stop reminded everyone of something they never wanted to admit. The King of Waltz is human. And perhaps that is what makes this chapter so emotional. André has spent decades giving people escape. When families were grieving, his music helped them remember beauty. When couples grew older together, his waltzes gave them one more dance. When lonely people sat in the audience, his concerts made them feel part of something grand and warm. But who gives André that same comfort when the lights go down? Who sees the tired man after the final bow? Who sees the long flights, the hotel rooms, the pressure to smile, the fear of disappointing thousands of people who waited months, sometimes years, to see him? At 76, André Rieu's tragedy is not a scandal. It is not a shocking secret. It is the quiet heartbreak of time. A performer can fight critics. He can survive financial risk. He can rebuild after silence. His biography even recalls how the pandemic stopped concerts for 2 years before the interrupted U.S. tour finally resumed in 2023. But no artist, no matter how beloved, can negotiate forever with age. Still, André continues. That is why fans are both relieved and worried. Relieved because he is still appearing on official concert schedules. Worried because they know every performance now carries more weight than before. Every smile feels precious. Every wave to the audience feels like something to remember. Every waltz feels less like entertainment and more like a gift. And maybe that is the real health update. André Rieu is still here, still loved, still surrounded by music, still connected to the audience that made his childhood dream come true. But the man behind the music is no longer young. And after giving the world so much beauty, fans are beginning to understand that the most heartbreaking part may not be watching André slow down. It may be realizing that one day, the final waltz will come. For André Rieu, the stage has never been just a place to perform. It has been his home, his battlefield, his sanctuary, and perhaps the only place where the weight of age seems to disappear for a little while. The moment he walks out, the audience rises. Thousands of people clap, smile, cheer, and wait for that familiar sound. Then André raises his violin, and suddenly the years seem to fall away. For a few minutes, he is not a man in his mid-70s facing the limits of time. He is the same dreamer who once believed music could make the world softer. But no matter how powerful the music becomes, the body still remembers what the spotlight tries to hide. That is the painful contrast fans are beginning to notice. On stage, André looks graceful, controlled, and full of charm. He jokes. He smiles. He leads his orchestra with the confidence of a man who knows exactly how to touch the heart of a crowd. Yet behind that image is a demanding life most people could never survive. A concert is not only the 2 hours the audience sees. It is the travel before it, the rehearsals, the sound checks, the long nights, the pressure to be perfect, the constant movement from one city to another. And for an artist of André's age, every journey takes more from the body than it did before. That is why even a small health scare can feel enormous to fans. They do not worry only because a show is canceled. They worry because André Rieu has become part of their lives. His music has been played at weddings, anniversaries, family gatherings, quiet evenings, and emotional goodbyes. For some fans, André is connected to memories of parents who are no longer here. For others, his concerts represent the happiest nights of their lives. So when they hear that he has been unwell, even briefly, it feels personal. Because André Rieu is not just an entertainer to them. He is a reminder of a more romantic world. And that is where the heartbreak becomes deeper. The very thing that made André beloved is also the thing that keeps him under pressure. People do not come to his concerts expecting something ordinary. They come expecting wonder. They expect the lights, the gowns, the grand melodies, the laughter, the tears, and the feeling that life is still beautiful despite everything. And André has spent decades trying not to disappoint them. But how heavy must that promise feel after all these years? Imagine standing in front of thousands of people who have waited months to see you. Some have traveled across countries. Some have saved money for one special night. Some may be watching you for the first and only time. Then imagine knowing that you are tired, that your body needs rest, that age is asking questions you cannot ignore. Still, the curtain rises. Still, André walks out. Still, the violin sings. That is not just professionalism. That is devotion. And devotion, when carried for a lifetime, can become both beautiful and heartbreaking. There is also another side of André's story that fans sometimes forget. He is not alone on that stage. Around him stands an entire orchestra, a musical family built over many years. He is their leader, their center, and the heartbeat of the show. When he is strong, everything moves with confidence. When he is forced to stop, the entire machine feels it. That kind of responsibility can be exhausting. For most people, aging means slowing down quietly. It means spending more time with family, choosing rest, protecting peace, and letting younger people carry the heavier loads. But for André Rieu, aging happens in public. Every step, every smile, every pause, every canceled show, every return to the stage becomes something fans analyze. That is a lonely kind of fame. Because when the world loves you for bringing joy, it can be difficult to admit when you are tired. And maybe that is why André's current chapter touches people so deeply. It is not about tragedy in the dramatic sense. It is about the quiet ache of watching someone who once seemed timeless become visibly human. It is about realizing that the music may continue, but the man behind it is carrying more than the audience can see. Still, André's story is not only sad. There is power in the fact that he continues to perform. There is dignity in the way he listens to his body when he must. There is wisdom in understanding that even a beloved artist has limits. And there is beauty in the bond between André and his fans, because that bond is no longer built only on spectacle. It is built on gratitude. Fans are no longer simply asking, "What will he play next?" They are asking, "Is he okay?" They are no longer just waiting for another waltz. They are treasuring the fact that he is still here to play it. And that may be the most emotional part of all. At 76, André Rieu does not need to prove his greatness anymore. He already has. The stages, the records, the sold-out concerts, the millions of hearts he touched, all of it speaks for him. Now, what fans truly want is simpler. They want him healthy. They want him peaceful. They want him protected from the cruel rumors and the impossible expectations. And above all, they want him to know that even if the music one day slows down, the love he created will not disappear. Because André Rieu did more than play the waltz. He taught the world how to feel it. The older André Rieu becomes, the more emotional his performances feel. Years ago, fans came to his concerts expecting excitement. They wanted the music, the costumes, the laughter, the romance, and the magical feeling of being transported into another time. They wanted to clap along, sing along, smile through tears, and leave the concert hall feeling lighter than when they arrived. But now, something has changed. When André steps onto the stage today, many fans do not just see a performer. They see a man who has spent almost his entire life giving them joy. They see the little boy who first held a violin at 5 years old. They see the dreamer who refused to believe classical music had to be cold, distant, or only for a small group of people. They see an artist who took the waltz, a style many considered old-fashioned, and made it feel alive again. And because of that, every concert now feels like a memory being made in real time. There's a bittersweet feeling in the air. No one wants to say it out loud, but everyone understands it. André Rieu cannot do this forever. No one can. Even the greatest artists eventually face the final chapter of their public life. The lights may still shine, the orchestra may still play, and the audience may still rise to its feet, but time is always standing quietly in the wings. That is what makes this part of André's journey so heartbreaking. For decades, he gave audiences the illusion that beauty could last forever. His concerts were built like fairy tales. The gowns shimmered, the melodies soared, couples held hands. Older fans remembered their youth. Younger fans discovered music their grandparents once loved. And André stood in the center of it all, smiling like the host of a grand celebration that would never end. But now, at 76, the fairy tale feels more fragile. And maybe that is why rumors about his health spread so quickly. Fans are afraid. They search his name, see dramatic headlines, and wonder if something terrible has happened. They look for updates because they care. They want reassurance. They want to know that the man who gave them so much happiness is still strong enough to continue. But concern can easily turn into confusion. In today's world, one small cancellation can become a shocking headline. One tired expression can become speculation. One old interview can be repackaged as breaking news. And for an artist like André Rieu, whose fan base includes many people who feel personally attached to him, those rumors can be especially painful. The truth is more delicate. André is still active, still loved, and still connected to his music. But he is also a man of 76, and that reality cannot be softened by applause. Health at that age is not something anyone can take for granted. Even a temporary illness can become more serious. Even a demanding schedule can feel heavier. Even a short break can make fans wonder if it is the beginning of something bigger. That is not drama. That is life. André's tragedy, then, is not that he has lost his gift. It is that the gift has become more physically expensive to share. Every time he walks onto the stage, he gives not only music, but energy. He gives focus. He gives presence. He gives warmth. He gives the audience the version of himself they came to see. And that can be a heavy responsibility for any performer, especially one who has carried a global career for so many decades. What fans may not always realize is that André Rieu's success was never accidental. His concerts look effortless because he worked obsessively to make them feel that way. Every detail matters: the sound, the lighting, the timing, the emotion, the flow of the evening. He understood that audiences did not only want to hear music, they wanted to feel part of something beautiful. That understanding made him extraordinary. But it also meant that he could never simply show up. André Rieu had to create a world every night. And creating a world takes strength. That is why this stage of his life carries such emotional weight. Fans are not only watching a musician perform, they are watching a lifetime of discipline, ambition, and love continue in real time. They are watching a man who could have stepped back long ago, but still chooses to give. There is something noble in that. There's also something painful. Because the same devotion that inspires fans can also make them worry. They wonder whether André rests enough. They wonder whether the travel is too much. They wonder whether the pressure to keep the music alive becomes lonely when the applause fades and the dressing room door closes. And yet, perhaps André understands something others do not. For him, performing may not simply be work. It may be the thing that keeps him alive inside. The stage gives him purpose. The orchestra gives him family. The audience gives him energy. The waltz gives him a language beyond ordinary words. So when people ask why he continues, the answer may be simple. Because this is who he is. And that makes the story even more emotional. André Rieu is not merely trying to hold on to fame. He is holding on to the life he built, the dream he protected, and the bond he formed with millions of people across the world. At 76, every concert feels like a reminder. Legends do not become legends because they avoid pain. They become legends because they keep giving beauty even while carrying it. And André Rieu has carried beauty longer than most. For many artists, success means reaching the top. For André Rieu, success meant building a world so beautiful that people never wanted to leave it. That is why his story feels different from the story of an ordinary musician. André did not simply perform songs. He created an atmosphere. He gave audiences permission to believe in romance again. He made people dress up, travel long distances, sit under the lights, and feel as if they had stepped into a dream. But dreams are fragile. And the older André becomes, the more fragile that dream feels. At 76, every appearance carries a deeper meaning. Fans no longer take his presence for granted. When he walks onto the stage, they know they are witnessing something precious. The smile is still there. The violin is still there. The orchestra still rises around him like a wave of sound. But underneath the beauty, there is an emotional truth no one can ignore. Time is no longer far away. For decades, André Rieu seemed to defeat time. His music belonged to the past, but somehow he made it feel alive in the present. He took melodies that many people associated with old Europe, formal concert halls, and forgotten traditions, and he gave them back to the public with warmth and spectacle. He turned classical music into celebration. He made the waltz feel like a heartbeat. That is not easy to do. It takes charisma. It takes discipline. It takes courage. And above all, it takes energy, the kind of energy that becomes harder to summon with age. That is what makes the health concerns around André so emotional. Fans are not simply worried about whether he can play another concert. They are worried about the person behind the public image. They know that a man can look strong beneath the lights and still feel exhausted when the curtain falls. They know that elegance can hide pain. They know that a smile can sometimes be an act of generosity. And André Rieu has always been generous. He gave his audiences more than music. He gave them comfort. He gave them memories. He gave them a place where grief could soften, where aging couples could feel young again, where families could sit together and share something beautiful across generations. That kind of gift creates loyalty. It also creates fear. Because when someone has been part of your happiest memories, the thought of losing them feels strangely personal. Fans may have never met André, yet they feel connected to him. They remember the first time they saw him on television. They remember buying a DVD for a parent. They remember hearing one of his waltzes during a quiet evening at home. They remember crying during a concert without fully understanding why. That is the power of music. It enters places words cannot reach. André Rieu understood that better than most. He understood that people do not come to music only to be impressed. They come to be healed, even if only for a moment. They come to remember who they were. They come to feel something honest in a world full of noise. But now, the man who gave a healing to others has entered a chapter where fans want healing for him. They want him to rest. They want him to protect his health. They want him to continue only if continuing brings him joy, not pressure. They want the applause to lift him, not trap him. Because there is a painful side to being loved by millions. When the world loves what you do, it can become difficult to stop doing it. Every concert becomes a promise. Every tour becomes an expectation. Every fan message becomes a reminder that people are waiting. And for a performer like André, who has always cared deeply about giving audiences a perfect evening, that expectation can become heavy. Perhaps that is the hidden tragedy. Not illness, not scandal, not some dramatic final goodbye. The tragedy is that André Rieu has spent his life making millions of people feel less alone, while carrying a level of responsibility few people could understand. He became the face of joy, and that can be a lonely role when the body grows tired. Still, there is something deeply moving about the way he continues to stand before the orchestra. He does not need to prove anything anymore. His legacy is already written. His name is already tied to the revival of the waltz for modern audiences. His concerts have already touched people across continents. His music has already entered homes, memories, and hearts around the world. Yet he continues because music is not merely his career. It is his identity. And that is why fans watch him with such tenderness now. They are not only admiring a performer, they are honoring a lifetime. They are watching a man who turned his childhood dream into a global language, and they understand that every note he plays now carries the weight of everything he has lived. At 76, André Rieu's story is not only heartbreaking. It is beautiful because it is heartbreaking. It reminds us that even legends grow older. Even the brightest stages cannot stop time. Even music, as powerful as it is, cannot make one body young forever. But music can do something else. It can preserve love. And long after the final note fades, the love André Rieu created will still be dancing. There is a moment in almost every André Rieu concert when the performance becomes more than music. The audience begins to sway. Couples hold hands. Some people close their eyes. Others wipe away tears they did not expect to cry. The orchestra plays with warmth. The lights glow softly, and André stands in the middle of it all, guiding the emotion like someone who understands exactly where the heart is most vulnerable. That is his gift. He knows how to make people feel safe enough to remember. And maybe that is why his fans are so protective of him now. They are not only listening to the violinist, they are watching over the man. They are searching for signs that he is healthy, strong, rested, and still able to continue without sacrificing himself. Because deep down, they know the stage can be both a blessing and a burden. For André, applause must feel like love. But love from millions of people can also become pressure. When audiences travel far distances, buy tickets months in advance, and wait with excitement for one unforgettable night, a performer may feel he has no right to be tired. He may feel that every show must go on, even when his body asks for quiet. That is a painful place to stand. André Rieu built his career on joy. His entire image is wrapped in elegance, celebration, humor, and emotional release. Fans do not come to his concerts expecting darkness. They come expecting beauty. They expect to be lifted. They expect to leave with smiles on their faces and music in their hearts. But the man responsible for creating that joy is still living inside the same human limits as everyone else. At 76, those limits matter more than ever. This is why health updates about André Rieu stir such strong emotion. Fans are not being dramatic when they worry. They are responding to the reality that time changes everything. The touring life is difficult even for young performers. Long flights, shifting time zones, changing weather, late nights, early departures, rehearsals, interviews, and physical exhaustion can wear anyone down. For a man in his 70s, the challenge becomes even greater. Yet André has never been known as someone who does things halfway. His concerts are not modest evenings with a few musicians and simple lighting. They are grand productions filled with scale, detail, precision, and spectacle. Every element must work together. The orchestra must be ready. The crew must be ready. The sound must be right. The audience must feel transported from the first moment to the last. That level of perfection requires energy few people ever see. And the heartbreaking part is that fans often realize only when something goes wrong. When a show is canceled, postponed, or interrupted by illness, people suddenly remember how much effort it takes to keep a global career alive. They begin to see the invisible work behind the visible magic. They understand that André is not simply walking out with a violin. He is carrying decades of expectation on his shoulders. But despite the concern, there's also something inspiring in this chapter of his life. André Rieu's age has not erased his purpose. If anything, it has made that purpose clearer. He continues because music still connects him to the world. It connects him to his childhood, to his family, to his orchestra, and to the fans who have walked beside him for so many years. For some artists, retirement is escape. For André, stepping away may not be so simple. How does a man retire from the dream that shaped his entire life? How does he silence the music that has lived inside him since childhood? How does he say goodbye to audiences who have become almost like extended family? Those are not easy questions. And perhaps André himself does not know the full answer yet. What fans can see is that he continues carefully with more awareness than before. The health scares and difficult moments have reminded everyone that even legends must listen to the body. Continuing does not mean ignoring weakness. True strength sometimes means knowing when to pause. That lesson may be the most important part of André Rieu's current story. For years, people admired him because he seemed unstoppable. Now, they admire him because he is human. They admire the courage it takes to keep playing, but also the wisdom it takes to protect his health when needed. That is a different kind of greatness. A younger André conquered stages. The older André teaches something deeper. That beauty is not less meaningful because it becomes fragile. In fact, fragility can make beauty even more powerful. When fans watch him now, They're not only enjoying the music, they are witnessing perseverance. They are witnessing gratitude. They are witnessing a man standing at the edge of time, still choosing to offer grace. And that is why the tragedy of André Rieu feels beyond heartbreaking. Not because his story is ending today, but because every person who loves him understands that nothing this beautiful can last forever. One day, the final concert will come. One day, the last bow will be taken. One day, the orchestra will play, the audience will rise, and the world will realize that an era has quietly reached its final note. But until that day, André Rieu's music remains a gift. And every time he raises his violin, fans are reminded of something they may have forgotten. Life is brief, love is fragile, and sometimes the most beautiful thing a person can do is keep playing while the heart still has a song. What makes André Rieu's story so powerful is that his music has always carried two emotions at once: joy and sadness. A waltz can sound bright, romantic, and full of life. But underneath it, there is often a shadow. The melody rises, then falls. It makes people smile, then suddenly remember something they lost. It makes couples dance, but it also reminds them that every dance eventually ends. Maybe that is why André understood the waltz so deeply. He knew it was never just happy music. It was memory in motion. It was love spinning against time. It was beauty trying to survive the truth that nothing stays still forever. And now, at 76, André himself has become part of that same emotion. When fans look at him today, they feel joy because he is still here. They feel gratitude because he still steps onto the stage. They feel wonder because the music still rises from his violin with warmth and elegance. But they also feel sadness because they know they are watching a living legend in a fragile chapter of life. That is not easy to accept. For years, André seemed like a permanent figure. He was always there, smiling beneath the lights, leading the orchestra, inviting the audience into a world where romance had not died. His concerts became a tradition for families. His DVDs became gifts for parents and grandparents. His performances became part of holidays, birthdays, quiet evenings, and emotional memories. He became familiar. And familiarity can make people forget that time is passing. Then suddenly, one health update changes everything. A canceled concert, a short illness, a visible sign of fatigue, or even a rumor online can make fans realize how much they had taken his presence for granted. They begin to understand that every performance is not guaranteed. Every tour is not automatic. Every appearance is a choice, and sometimes that choice comes with real physical cost. That realization hurts. But it also makes the music more meaningful. Because when something is fragile, people hold it more carefully. That is what has happened with André Rieu. Fans are no longer simply asking for more concerts, more tours, more recordings, and more appearances. Many are now asking something much more tender. Is he taking care of himself? That question says everything. It shows that the relationship between André and his audience has matured. It is no longer only about entertainment. It is about love, respect, and concern. Fans understand that the man who gave them so much joy deserves peace too. He deserves rest. He deserves protection from cruel speculation. He deserves to be seen as more than a performer who must keep giving until there is nothing left. And perhaps that is the real tragedy of artists like André Rieu. The world celebrates their gift, but often forgets the human being carrying it. People see the violin, the orchestra, the costume, the stage, and the smile. They see the final product. They see the magic. But they rarely see the exhaustion after the applause fades. They do not see the careful health decisions, the private conversations with family, the difficult choices about touring, the pressure of disappointing fans, or the quiet moments when an artist may wonder how much longer he can continue. That private burden is heavy. André has built a career around making people feel uplifted, yet when he faces his own limitations, he must do so under the gaze of a world that wants reassurance. Everyone wants to hear that he is fine. Everyone wants to believe the music will continue. Everyone wants the dream to remain untouched. But life does not work that way. The body has its own truth. Age has its own rhythm. No amount of applause can fully erase fatigue, and no amount of fame can make a person immune to vulnerability. Still, there is dignity in how André's story continues. He has not allowed age to erase his identity. He has not allowed rumors to define him. He has not allowed the passing years to make his music less joyful. Instead, he continues to offer what he can, while reminding fans, sometimes without saying a word, that even joy requires care. That message matters. Because many people watching André are aging too. They understand the strange feeling of still being the same person inside while the body begins to change. They understand wanting to continue, wanting to be useful, wanting to bring happiness to others, while also needing more rest than before. In that sense, André Rieu's current chapter speaks to more than music. It speaks to aging with purpose. It speaks to loving your work so deeply that stepping away feels almost impossible. It speaks to the courage of continuing and the wisdom of knowing when to pause. And above all, it speaks to the bond between an artist and the people who refuse to let him be reduced to rumors. At 76, André Rieu's tragedy is beyond heartbreaking because it is also universal. It is the story of time catching up with someone who made the world feel timeless. It is the story of a man who turned music into comfort, now receiving that same comfort back through the concern of millions. And maybe that is the most beautiful part. After all these years, the audience is no longer only applauding André. They are holding him in their hearts. There is something deeply emotional about watching an artist grow older in front of the world. When André Rieu first became internationally famous, audiences saw the energy, the charm, the confidence, and the grand vision. He did not look like a man following a trend. He looked like a man building his own universe. While much of the entertainment world chased louder sounds, faster rhythms, and younger faces, André chose something different. He chose the waltz. He chose elegance. He chose romance. And somehow, against every expectation, the world listened. That is one of the most remarkable parts of his story. André Rieu made people care about music that many had forgotten. He brought classical melodies out of the formal concert hall and placed them under open skies, surrounded by lights, laughter, flowers, gowns, and emotion. He made people who thought classical music was not for them suddenly feel welcome. He did not ask audiences to sit stiffly in silence. He invited them to feel. And that invitation changed everything. But now, many years later, that same invitation carries a different kind of sadness. Fans still come to feel joy, but they also come with a quiet awareness that André is no longer the same young, tireless dreamer who could tour endlessly without the world worrying. He is still graceful. He is still beloved. He is still the center of the orchestra. But age has given every performance a new emotional color. The music is still beautiful, but now it feels more precious. Every bow feels heavier. Every smile feels more meaningful. Every encore feels like something that should not be taken for granted. That is the strange power of this chapter in André's life. Nothing has to be officially announced for fans to feel the weight of time. They simply know. They understand that at 76, health is not a minor detail. It is the foundation beneath everything. Without health, there is no tour. Without rest, there is no strength. Without strength, even the most beautiful dream becomes difficult to carry. André's fans do not want to lose the magic. But they also do not want the magic to cost him too much. That is why the conversation around his health has become so sensitive. People want updates, but they also fear what those updates might say. They want honesty, but not cruelty. They want reassurance, but not false comfort. They want to celebrate him, but they also want to protect him from the pressure of being treated like a machine. Because André Rieu has never been a machine. He is a man who spent his life turning discipline into beauty. Behind every effortless gesture were years of practice. Behind every warm smile was a career built on risk. Behind every magical concert was an enormous amount of planning, responsibility, and physical demand. The world saw the sparkle. But André carried the weight. And maybe that is why his story feels so heartbreaking now. It reminds us that the people who bring joy are often carrying burdens we never see. The ones who make us smile may be tired. The ones who seem strongest may need rest. The ones who stand in front of thousands may still have private moments of vulnerability when the stage lights disappear. For André, those private moments remain mostly hidden. He has built his public life around beauty, not complaint. He does not invite the audience into every difficult detail. He does not turn his struggles into spectacle. Instead, he returns to what he has always done. He lifts the violin, turns to the orchestra, and lets the music speak. And perhaps that silence is part of his dignity, but also leaves fans wondering. They wonder how he really feels after a demanding concert. They wonder how much recovery he needs between shows. They wonder whether the long travel schedule is becoming harder. They wonder whether the man who has given so much joy has allowed himself enough peace. These questions come from love, not curiosity alone. Because André Rieu has become more than a performer. He has become part of people's emotional history. His music has accompanied marriages, anniversaries, family memories, hospital rooms, lonely nights, and final goodbyes. For many fans, his songs are attached to people they loved and lost. That is why watching him age hurts. It feels like watching a chapter of their own lives slowly turn toward its final pages. Still, there is comfort in the fact that André's legacy is already secure. He does not need one more concert to prove his impact. He does not need one more standing ovation to confirm his greatness. He has already changed how millions of people experience orchestral music. He has already made the waltz feel alive again. He has already created memories that will outlast any stage. And yet, because he continues, every performance becomes a bonus. A gift. A reminder. A final season kind of beauty, even if no one knows when the final season truly begins. At 76, André Rieu's tragedy is not that he is weak. It is that he has been strong for so long that the world forgot strength has limits. It forgot that even legends need care. It forgot that even the man who made audiences dance must one day slow his own steps. But perhaps André's greatest lesson is not found in perfection. It is found in perseverance. He shows that aging does not erase purpose. He shows that fragility does not destroy beauty. He shows that music can still rise from a tired world and make people believe, even for one evening, that love is stronger than time. And as long as André Rieu can still raise his violin, the world will keep listening. Not only because of the music, but because of the man behind it.